Dr. Kim Taewon stared at the computer screen in disbelief. The numbers didn't make sense. According to every physics textbook ever written, what he was seeing should be impossible. Yet there it was, glowing on the monitor in bright green text that seemed to mock centuries of scientific understanding. "Minji, come look at this," he called to his colleague across the laboratory. Park Minji rolled her chair over from her workstation, her coffee mug still steaming in the cold Seoul morning air. The Advanced Research Institute felt more like a tomb than a place of discovery most days, buried 3 levels underground and filled with the constant hum of machinery. But today felt different. "What am I looking at?" Minji asked, squinting at the screen. "The test results from yesterday's quantum vacuum experiment," Taewon said, his voice barely containing his excitement. "Look at the energy readings." Minji's eyes widened. She set down her coffee with shaking hands. "That's not possible. The energy output is 3 times what we put in." "I know. I've run the calculations 12 times. Each time, I get the same result." Lee Jae-hyun looked up from his corner desk where he'd been working on propulsion equations. As the team's engineer, he'd seen plenty of failed experiments over the past 5 years. The Korean government had funded their research into faster-than-light travel, but progress had been painfully slow. Most days, Jae-hyun wondered if they were chasing shadows. "What are you two whispering about?" Jae-hyun asked, stretching his back as he walked over. Taewon turned his screen so Jae-hyun could see. "We might have accidentally created a space-time compression field," Jae-hyun laughed. "Right, and I'm the Emperor of Mars." "I'm serious," Taewon said. "Look at these readings. When we fired the quantum resonance beam into the vacuum chamber, something unexpected happened. Instead of just creating particle pairs like we expected, we seem to have bent space itself." The 3 scientists stood in silence, staring at the data. Outside their underground laboratory, Seoul was waking up to another ordinary day. People were drinking coffee, heading to work, worrying about bills and relationships. None of them knew that 3 floors below the city streets, the laws of physics were being rewritten. "We need to test this again," Minji said finally. "But bigger." "Much bigger," Jae-hyun agreed. "If this is real, we're not just talking about faster-than-light travel. We're talking about instant travel." Taewon nodded slowly. He'd spent his entire career studying theoretical physics, dreaming of the day humanity might reach the stars. Every simulation, every calculation had suggested it would take enormous amounts of energy to achieve even modest faster-than-light speeds. But this was different. This was elegant. "The beauty of it," he said, pulling up his calculations on a second monitor, "is that we're not actually moving faster than light. We're compressing the space in front of us and expanding it behind us. From outside, it looks like we're moving impossibly fast. But from our perspective, we never break the speed limit." Over the next 3 days, the team worked around the clock. They built a larger test chamber and refined their quantum beam generators. The Korean government had given them a generous budget, expecting slow progress over decades. They had no idea their investment was about to pay off in the most spectacular way possible. On Thursday morning, they were ready for the big test. A small probe, no larger than a basketball, sat in the center of their new chamber. It was equipped with cameras, sensors, and a quantum beacon that would let them track its position. "All systems ready," Minji reported from her control station. "Quantum field generators at full power," Jae-hyun added. Taewon took a deep breath. "Beginning space-time compression in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the activation button. The air in the chamber shimmered like heat waves rising from summer pavement. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the probe simply vanished. "Where did it go?" Minji asked, checking her instruments frantically. "The beacon signal is—" "Wait," Jae-hyun said, his face pale. "It's coming from outside the building." They rushed to the elevator and rode it to the surface. The morning sun felt warm on their faces as they stood in the Institute's parking lot, holding Jae-hyun's tracking device. The signal was strong and getting stronger. "There." Minji pointed to the sky. A small object was falling toward them, slowed by a tiny parachute. The probe landed softly in the grass beside the parking lot. Taewon picked it up with trembling hands and connected it to his tablet. "According to the internal clock," he said slowly, "the probe experienced a journey time of 0.3 seconds. "How far did it travel?" Jae-hyun asked. Taewon checked the GPS coordinates and did some quick math. 47 kilometers. It went from our underground lab to a point in the upper atmosphere and back in less than half a second. "That's—" Minji started calculating on her phone. "That's over 300 times the speed of light." They stood in stunned silence, watching normal people walk past on the sidewalk. A businessman talked on his phone. A mother pushed a stroller. A delivery truck rumbled down the street. The world continued its ordinary rhythm, completely unaware that everything had just changed. Far above Earth's atmosphere, something else had noticed the brief flash of impossible energy. A sleek alien monitoring station, invisible to human sensors, registered the space-time distortion with alarm. Inside the station, observer Veltaran studied the readings with growing concern. The humans had done something that shouldn't be possible. For millions of years, faster-than-light travel had been the exclusive domain of advanced civilizations. The Galactic Coordination Council controlled the technology jealously, doling it out only to species that proved themselves worthy through centuries of peaceful development. Veltaran's tentacles moved quickly over the control surfaces as he prepared. An emergency report. The Council needed to know about this immediately. Humans were supposed to be a primitive species, barely capable of reaching their own moon reliably. They certainly weren't supposed to be manipulating space-time. As he transmitted his report, across the galaxy using the Council's own FTL communication network, Veltaran felt a chill of unease. In all his years of monitoring developing species, he'd never seen anything like what the humans had just accomplished. Their method was completely different from Council technology. It was simpler, more elegant, and apparently more powerful. Back on Earth, Taewon, Minji, and Jae-hyun returned to their laboratory with a mixture of excitement and terror. They'd just achieved humanity's greatest dream, but they also sensed they'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "We need to tell the government," Minji said. "We need to be careful," Jae-hyun countered. "This technology could be incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands." Taewon nodded. "It could also be humanity's ticket to the stars. We just need to make sure we're ready for whatever comes next." As night fell over Seoul, the three scientists began planning their next experiments. None of them suspected that. Their breakthrough had already been detected by forces beyond their imagination. The Galactic Coordination Council was stirring, and humanity's peaceful existence was about to end. The age of human innocence was over. The age of galactic politics had begun. The Galactic Coordination Council chambers floated in the empty space between stars, a massive structure that had served as the center of galactic government for over 1,000,000 years. 12 different alien species had built it together in an age when cooperation meant survival. Now it represented something far different: absolute control. Prime Executor Thelmosis stood at the center of the Great Hall, his blue crystalline body catching light from a dozen different suns. Around him, representatives from 11 other species watched holographic displays showing energy readings from a small yellow star system on the galaxy's outer rim. "Impossible," declared Representative Korth of the Mechanical Confederation, his robotic voice echoing off the chamber walls. "No species achieves true FTL technology without our guidance. The mathematical principles alone require millions of years to develop." Thelmosis nodded, his crystal facets shifting color as he processed the information. "Observer Veltarans, report must contain errors. These humans barely mastered nuclear fusion 50 years ago. They cannot have leaped directly to space-time manipulation." The Quillian Collective representative, a being of pure energy contained within a force field suit, pulsed with disagreement. "The readings are unmistakable. Something in that system created a localized space-time distortion measuring 8.7 on the Corvani scale." "Perhaps they found ancient technology," suggested the Nithaki delegate, her crystalline form resonating with musical tones. "A relic from the predecessor civilizations." Thelmosis dismissed the idea with a wave of his arm. "We've monitored their system for 12,000 years. There are no predecessor artifacts within 100 light-years of their world." Admiral Keshatar of the Draconian Imperium leaned forward on his scaled haunches. "Then we have a problem. If a primitive species has independently developed FTL capability, it threatens the entire galactic order." The chamber fell silent. For millions of years, the Council had maintained peace through careful technological control. They allowed species to develop at a steady pace, providing guidance and occasionally sharing advanced knowledge with those who proved worthy. The system worked because it prevented arms races and technological disasters. More importantly, it kept the Council in power. "What do we know about these humans?" asked the Hive Queen of the sectoid swarm, her mental voice reaching all present. Thelmosis gestured to activate a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the center of the chamber. Cities, forests, oceans, and billions of small bipedal creatures going about their daily lives. Carbon-based mammals, individually intelligent but collectively chaotic, he reported. "They've had nuclear weapons for less than a century and have already come close to destroying themselves multiple times. They fight constant wars over resources, territory, and ideological differences. Typical primitive behavior," noted Representative Korth. "They lack the wisdom for advanced technology. Yet they've somehow achieved what our greatest scientists took eons to develop," the Quillian representative reminded them. On Earth, Dr. Yoon Seokman was having trouble sleeping. As Earth's chief xenobiologist, he'd spent years searching for signs of alien life. His massive radio telescope arrays scanned the heavens constantly, looking for any hint that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. 3 days ago, his equipment had detected something extraordinary. Structured radio signals coming from multiple points in space. The transmissions were encrypted, but the mathematical patterns were clearly artificial. More disturbing, some of the signals seemed to be coming from within the solar system itself. Seokman rubbed his tired eyes and studied the data once more. The signals had begun immediately after the research team in Seoul announced their successful FTL test. That couldn't be a coincidence. He picked up his secure phone and dialed the number for the Seoul Advanced Research Institute. Dr. Kim Taewon, speaking. "Taewon, This is Siokman. We need to talk. Privately. An hour later, Siokman sat in Taewon's laboratory, showing him printouts of the mysterious radio transmissions. Park Minji and Lee Jae-hyun crowded around the table, their faces growing more worried with each page. "You're saying we're being watched?" Minji asked. "I'm saying someone out there was very interested in your experiment," Siokman replied. "These transmissions started exactly 37 minutes after your successful test. They're coming from at least 6 different locations in our solar system." Jae-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. "Monitoring stations?" "That would be my guess. The OS. Signals are too organized to be natural phenomena, and they're definitely not coming from any human technology." Taewon stared at the data with a mixture of fascination and fear. "How long do you think they've been watching us?" "Unknown. But I suspect our FTL breakthrough got their attention in a big way." Back in the council chambers, the debate continued. Various representatives proposed different responses to the human situation. Some wanted to send a diplomatic mission. Others suggested economic sanctions or technological interference. Admiral Keshatar favored a more direct approach. "We should dispatch a containment fleet immediately," he growled. "Overwhelming force has always been effective with primitive species. They surrender their dangerous technology in exchange for our protection." "The draconian solution to everything," scoffed the Nithaki representative. "Perhaps we should try communication first." "Communication implies equality," Thelmosis said coldly. "These creatures have stumbled upon something they don't understand. We will take their toys away before they hurt themselves or others." The vote was swift and decisive. 11 of the 12 species agreed to immediate intervention. Only the Quillian collective abstained, their representative pulsing with unease. "Fleet Commander Kexthul will lead the mission," Admiral Keshatar announced. 12 ships should be more than sufficient to contain a single primitive world. Kexthul, a veteran officer of the Draconian fleet, accepted the assignment with confidence. His ships were among the fastest in the galaxy, capable of crossing vast distances using conventional antimatter drives. The journey to the human system would take several weeks, but that was acceptable. Primitive species rarely made significant technological advances quickly. He had no way of knowing how wrong he was. In Seoul, the human team was working with desperate urgency. Siokman's discovery had changed everything. They were no longer alone, and whoever was watching them probably didn't approve of their breakthrough. "We need to accelerate the program," Taewon said during their emergency meeting. "If there are aliens out there, we need to be ready for contact." "What if they're friendly?" Minji asked hopefully. Jae-hyun shook his head. "If they were friendly, why hide? Why not make contact years ago? The fact that they're only responding now suggests they see us as a threat." "Or an opportunity," Siokman added grimly. "Advanced civilizations don't usually tolerate competition from newcomers." Taewon made a decision that would change human history. "We're going to build a ship. A real FTL starship with defensive capabilities. If someone's coming to take our technology away, we'll be ready for them. That's going to require government support," Minji pointed out. "Then we better make some calls." Within hours, the Korean government was briefing the United Nations Security Council on the situation. Within days, every major nation on Earth was contributing resources to humanities. First Starship Program. The project was given a simple name: New Horizon. Captain Han Ji-won, a veteran pilot from the Korean Air Force, was chosen to command the vessel. She'd flown everything from fighters to cargo transports, but nothing had prepared her for the responsibility. of potentially representing all of humanity in first contact with an alien civilization. "How long until the ship is ready?" she asked during her first briefing with the science team. "6 weeks if we work around the clock," Jae-hyun replied. "The FTL drive is relatively simple to build now that we understand the principles. The hard part is designing weapons and defenses for a technology we've never seen." "What makes you think we'll need weapons?" Taewon showed her Seokmin's latest intercepts. The alien transmissions were increasing in frequency and intensity. Whatever was coming, it was getting closer. "Because," Taewon said quietly, "they've been watching us for who knows how long, and they only started talking when we achieved something they didn't want us to have." Far across the galaxy, Fleet Commander Kexthul reviewed his mission parameters one final time. 12 ships, 3,000 crew members, and orders to contain a primitive species that had somehow stumbled onto advanced technology. It should be simple. It always had been before. He had no idea that humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Fleet Commander Kexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dominant Claw, watching stars streak past the view screen as his fleet moved toward the human system. 12 ships of the Draconian Imperium cut through space using conventional antimatter drives, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. "Status report," Kexthul commanded, his scaled hide reflecting the bridge's red lighting. "All ships maintaining formation, Commander," reported his tactical officer. "Estimated arrival at the target system in 18 standard days." Kexthul nodded with satisfaction. 18 days was actually quite fast for such a journey. The Draconian fleet was among the most advanced in the galaxy, using technology refined over millions of years. Their antimatter drives could achieve significant fractions of light speed, making them the Council's preferred tool for rapid response missions. "Any intelligence updates on the target species?" "Additional monitoring confirms they are technologically primitive, sir. No space-based defenses detected. Their largest vessels appear to be simple chemical propulsion craft limited to their home system." The commander allowed himself a predatory smile. This would be easier than expected. Most species required careful negotiation when the Council came calling. A show of overwhelming force usually convinced them to cooperate without bloodshed. These humans would surrender their dangerous technology quickly once they understood the consequences of resistance. "Have the other ships conducted combat drills?" he asked. "Yes, sir, though I hardly think such preparations are necessary against a single primitive world." On Earth, the situation was far different from what the alien fleet expected. In the 6 weeks since Dr. Kim Taewon's breakthrough, humanity had undergone the most rapid technological advancement in its history. Every major nation had contributed their best scientists, engineers, and resources to the crash program. The Seoul Advanced Research Institute had been transformed into humanity's first FTL development center. Dr. Taewon worked 18-hour days, alongside an international team of physicists, refining the space-time compression technology. They'd made discoveries that excited and terrified them in equal measure. "The efficiency gains are exponential," Taewon explained to the assembled team during their daily briefing. "Each refinement to the quantum field generators produces dramatically better results." Dr. Choi Hyerin, a brilliant mathematician who joined the project from Seoul National University, showed her latest calculations on the main screen. "Based on our current understanding, we can achieve instantaneous travel across thousands of light years with relatively modest energy requirements." "How is that possible?" asked Dr. Martinez, a physicist from the European Space Agency. "We're not actually moving through space in the traditional sense. Hieron explained. "We're folding space-time itself. From an outside observer, it looks like we're traveling faster than light. But from our perspective, we're taking a shortcut through higher dimensional space." Engineer Kang Sunho, who'd been working on practical applications of the technology, raised his hand. "The implications go beyond just travel. We can use the same principles for defensive systems." "How do you mean?" asked Captain Han Ji-won, who'd been following the technical discussions as best she could. "Phase shifting," Sunho said excitedly. "By creating controlled distortions in local space-time, we can make our ships temporarily exist in a slightly different dimensional phase. Conventional weapons would pass right through us." The assembled scientists and military officers exchanged amazed looks. They'd started this project hoping to build a simple FTL drive. Instead, they were developing technology that seemed like magic. Park Minji, now serving as chief engineer for the Starship construction project, brought up the holographic displays showing their progress. "The New Horizon is ahead of schedule. We should have our first operational FTL vessel ready for testing in 2 weeks." The ship taking shape in the massive underground construction facility was unlike anything humanity had ever built. Sleek and elegant, it incorporated the quantum field generators into its very structure. Traditional rocket engines were supplemented by reaction drives that manipulated space-time directly, allowing for incredible maneuverability. "What about weapons?" Captain Ji-won asked. "That's where things get interesting," Minji replied, switching to a new set of displays. "We can't just mount conventional weapons on an FTL ship. The energy requirements are too different. But Sunho's team has developed something we're calling quantum torpedoes. They work on the same principle as our phase-shifting defense," Sunho explained. "The torpedo phases into the target's dimensional space and detonates from the inside. No shield technology we can imagine would be effective against them." Admiral Song Kyung-ho, recently promoted to head Earth's newly formed Stellar Defense Corps, studied the technical specifications with approval. The military implications were staggering. "How many ships can we build?" "With current resources and working around the clock, we can complete 3 vessels in the next month," Minji answered. "The New Horizon, the Breakthrough, and the Defiance." Meanwhile, Dr. Yoon Seokmin continued monitoring alien communications from his expanded listening post. The signals were getting stronger and more frequent, suggesting the source was approaching Earth. His translation algorithms had made some progress decoding the transmissions, and what he'd learned was deeply concerning. "They're not coming to say hello," he reported during a secure video conference with world leaders. "The message fragments I've decoded suggest they view us as a problem to be solved. Terms like containment and technological seizure appear repeatedly." President Kim of South Korea leaned forward on the screen. "How much time do we have? Based on the signal strength and frequency changes, I estimate they'll arrive within 2 weeks. That coincides perfectly with our ship completion schedule," Admiral Song noted. "Almost like it was planned." "Maybe it was," Dr. Taewon said quietly. "If they've been watching us this long, they probably know our capabilities better than we do." The final 2 weeks before alien arrival were a frenzy of activity. The New Horizon completed its maiden voyage, successfully jumping from Earth to Mars and back in less than a second. The crew, led by Captain Ji-won, reported that the journey felt completely smooth. No acceleration, no stress, no sensation of movement at all. "It's like stepping through a doorway," Ji-won reported to Mission Control. "One moment we're looking at Earth, the next we're in orbit around Mars." The tactical implications were immediately obvious. Traditional space combat assumed that ships moved predictably through normal space. But vessels capable of instantaneous position changes would be nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. Lee Jae-hyun, now serving as the fleet's chief technical officer, supervised the installation of the new quantum torpedo systems. The weapons were elegant in their simplicity, small devices that created localized space-time distortions, allowing them to bypass any form of barrier or shield. The beauty of this system, he explained to the weapons crews, is that there's no defense against it using conventional technology. Their shields, armor, even their hull materials exist in normal space-time. Our weapons attack from a different dimensional angle entirely. On the final day, before the estimated alien arrival, humanity's 3 FTL vessels held position in the outer solar system. The New Horizon, Breakthrough, and Defiance waited silently among the asteroid belt, their crews tense but confident. All ships report ready, Captain Jiwon announced over the fleet communication channel. Remember? Admiral Song's voice came through clearly. We're not looking for a fight, but if they want to take our technology by force, they're going to get a surprise they'll never forget. Fleet Commander Kex Thul was indeed surprised when his fleet finally dropped out of FTL at the edge of the human system. His sensors detected 3 small vessels waiting for them, but the readings made no sense. Tactical, what am I looking at? He demanded. Unknown energy signatures, Commander. The ships appear to be using some form of space-time manipulation for propulsion. Impossible. Primitive species don't have access to such technology. Sir, I'm also detecting some kind of quantum field around each vessel. Our targeting systems can't get a lock. Kexthal felt the first stirring of unease. His fleet had come expecting to overwhelm a defenseless world with superior technology. Instead, they were facing ships that his instruments couldn't even properly analyze. Open a communication channel, he ordered. Let's see what these creatures have to say for themselves. The transmission that came back was in perfect galactic standard, the common language used by all council species. That should have been impossible for a species that had never made contact with galactic civilization. This is Admiral Song Kyung-ho of the Earth Stellar Defense Corps, the voice said calmly. You are entering human space without authorization. State your intentions immediately. The arrogance of the statement left Kexthul speechless for a moment. A primitive species was demanding that he justify his presence in their system. This is Fleet Commander Kexthul of the Galactic Coordination Council, he replied coldly. You will surrender your faster-than-light technology immediately and submit to Council oversight. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. There was a long pause before the human responded. Commander, the 12 ships of Fleet Commander Kexthul's battle group spread into attack formation as they approached the inner solar system. Each vessel was a masterpiece of draconian engineering, built over centuries and armed with weapons capable of reducing entire cities to ash. The dominant Claw led the formation, its dark hull bristling with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Long-range sensors show no additional human vessels, reported the tactical officer. Only the 3 ships we detected earlier. Kexthul studied the tactical display with growing confidence. 3 primitive vessels against 12 of the galaxy's most advanced warships. The outcome was predetermined. Analysis of their technology? He asked. Still unable to achieve target lock, sir. Their quantum signatures are unusual, but they're significantly smaller than our vessels. Each of our ships outmasses them by at least 10 to 1. The commander nodded with satisfaction. Size mattered in space combat. Larger ships carried more weapons, heavier armor, and stronger shields. These humans might have stumbled onto some kind of exotic propulsion, but they clearly didn't understand the fundamentals of military engineering. Prepare to broadcast our final demand, Kexthul ordered. On Earth, Billions of people watched the drama unfold through feeds from the orbital defense satellites. President Kim sat in the emergency command center beneath Seoul, surrounded by military advisors and scientists. The fate of humanity rested with 3 ships and their crews. "The alien fleet is massive," reported Admiral Song from his position aboard the command vessel New Horizon. 12 capital ships, each one larger than anything we've ever built. Dr. Kim Taewon, monitoring the situation from his laboratory, felt a chill of fear. Had they been overconfident? Their technology was revolutionary, but they'd never tested it in actual combat against an advanced alien civilization. "Admiral," came Captain Ji-won's voice over the communication channel. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. Put it through." Fleet Commander Kex Thul's voice filled the command center, speaking in heavily accented but understandable English. The aliens had apparently been studying human languages during their approach. "Attention, primitive humans. I am Fleet Commander Kex Thul of the Galactic Coordination Council. You have developed technology that violates galactic law. By authority of the Council, I demand the immediate surrender of all faster-than-light research and the submission of your species to Council oversight." Admiral Song exchanged glances with his tactical officers. The aliens' tone was exactly what they'd expected, condescending and threatening. "You have 1 standard time unit to comply," Kex Thul continued. "Failure to surrender will result in the forcible seizure of your technology and the occupation of your world. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the human fleet in tense silence. Dr. Lee Jae-hyun, serving as technical officer aboard the Breakthrough, ran final checks on their quantum weapon systems. "All ships report ready, Admiral. Quantum torpedoes armed and phase shift capabilities standing by." Admiral Song took a deep breath. In the next few minutes, humanity would either prove itself capable of defending its freedom or be reduced to a subject species under alien rule. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," he ordered. Kex Thul was expecting a plea for mercy when the human transmission came through. Instead, Admiral Song's voice was calm and resolute. "Commander Kex Thul, I'm afraid you've made several serious miscalculations. First, you assume your technology is superior to ours. Second, you believe might makes right. And third, you think humanity will bow to threats." The commander's scales bristled with anger. No primitive species had ever spoken to him with such defiance. "You're about to learn the price of arrogance," Song continued. "We offered you the chance to leave peacefully. Since you've chosen force instead, we'll accommodate you." "All ships, target the human vessels," Kex Thul snarled. "Fire at will." 12 alien warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes streaked across space toward the 3 human ships. The energy discharge was visible. From Earth's surface, a brief star-bright flash in the constellation of Orion. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Captain Ji-won watched the incoming weapons with professional calm. "Phase shift on my mark," she announced. 3, 2, 1, mark. The 3 human ships simply vanished. Every alien weapon passed harmlessly through empty space where the human vessels had been moments before. Kex Thul stared at his tactical. "Display in disbelief." "Where did they go?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. All 3 vessels have disappeared from our sensors completely." "That's impossible. Nothing can just vanish." His tactical officer's voice was strained with confusion. "Sir, they're not cloaked. They're not hiding behind asteroids. They're simply gone." The truth was both simpler and more complex than the aliens could imagine. The 3 human ships hadn't moved at all. Using controlled space-time distortions, they'd shifted their dimensional phase by a tiny fraction. They still occupied the same physical location, but existed in a slightly different layer of reality. From their phase-shifted position, the human crews could observe the alien fleet perfectly while remaining completely undetectable. It was like watching through a one-way mirror that existed in higher dimensional space. "Their weapons are impressive," observed Captain Park Minji from the bridge of the Defiance, "but they're based on conventional physics, brute force rather than elegant solutions." Dr. Kang Sunho, monitoring the alien fleet's technology from his position aboard the Breakthrough, made rapid calculations. Their shields operate on electromagnetic principles. Their armor is advanced metal alloys. Their propulsion is standard antimatter conversion. In other words, Admiral Song said grimly, they're using the same basic technology they probably developed millions of years ago. They've refined it, but they haven't innovated. Captain Jiwon studied the tactical situation. 12 ships in standard battle formation. They're expecting us to reappear and engage in conventional combat. Then let's give them something unconventional, Song decided. All ships, prepare quantum torpedoes. Target their engines first. I want them disabled, not destroyed. Sir, Jae-hyun's voice came through the communication channel. I'm detecting interesting energy patterns from their command ship. Their leader appears to be quite agitated. Indeed, Fleet Commander Kex Thul was experiencing something he'd never felt before in centuries of military service: complete tactical confusion. His enemy had simply vanished, using technology his instruments couldn't detect or analyze. Expand sensor sweep to maximum range, he ordered desperately. They have to be somewhere. Sir, what if they've retreated? Suggested his tactical officer. Impossible. Primitive species don't retreat when facing council authority. They either surrender or fight hopeless battles. They don't just disappear. What Kex Thul didn't understand was that he wasn't facing a primitive species anymore. Humanity had leaped beyond conventional technology into realms the council had never explored. While the alien civilizations had spent millions of years perfecting existing physics, humans had discovered entirely new ways to manipulate reality itself. Sir, the communications officer reported, we're receiving another transmission from the humans. Admiral Song's voice filled the alien bridge once again. Commander Kex Thul, you've just experienced a demonstration of human technology. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your sensors cannot find us. You are completely at our mercy. Kex Thul's pride would not allow him to acknowledge such a possibility. Tricks and deceptions. Show yourselves and fight with honor. Honor? Song's voice carried a note of cold amusement. You came to our home system uninvited, threatened our world, and demanded our surrender. You opened fire on vessels attempting peaceful communication. And now you speak of honor? The 3 human ships suddenly reappeared on the alien fleet's sensors, but not where they'd been before. The new horizon materialized directly above the alien formation. The Breakthrough appeared below them. The Defiance took position behind their rearmost vessels. The aliens found themselves surrounded by an enemy that could appear anywhere at will. Impossible, Kex Thul breathed. No species has such capabilities. You're about to learn what humanity is capable of, Admiral Song replied. Final warning, Commander. Withdraw from our system immediately or face the consequences. The Draconian commander's warrior pride overruled his tactical judgment. All ships, execute Dispersal Pattern 7. Target any human vessel that comes within range. It was exactly the wrong decision. All ships, Admiral Song ordered quietly. You are authorized to engage. Disable their propulsion systems. 3 quantum torpedoes launched simultaneously from the human vessels, each weapon phased through normal space-time and materialized inside the engine compartments of 3 different alien ships. The explosions were precise and controlled, destroying propulsion systems while leaving the rest of each vessel intact. 3 of Kexthul's ships immediately went dead in space, their crews alive but helpless. The remaining 9 alien vessels opened fire wildly, trying to hit opponents that could vanish and reappear at will. Plasma beams and antimatter torpedoes filled space in a chaotic light show that accomplished nothing except draining their own power reserves. Again, Song ordered. 3 more quantum torpedoes found their marks. 3 more alien ships lost propulsion, and the explosion in the dominant Claw's engine compartment sent shock waves through the massive alien vessel. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red as damage reports flooded in from across the ship. Fleet Commander Kexthul gripped his command chair as the artificial gravity fluctuated. Engine room reports total propulsion failure, his engineering officer announced, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. We're dead in space, sir. Kexthul stared at the tactical display showing his fleet's destruction. 7 of his 12 vessels drifted helplessly, their crews alive but their ships crippled. The 5 remaining vessels continued firing wildly at enemies that appeared and vanished like ghosts. How? He whispered. How are they doing this? On the bridge of the New Horizon, Admiral Song watched the alien fleets increasingly desperate. Attempts to engage human ships that could phase in and out of normal space-time at will. Captain G1 materialized her vessel directly beside one of the remaining alien ships, close enough that the enemy crew could see her through the viewports. Their weapons can't even track us, G1 reported. They're firing at where we were, not where we are. Dr. Kang Sunho, monitoring alien communications from his position aboard the Breakthrough, provided real-time intelligence. Their crews are panicking. I'm detecting massive power fluctuations across their remaining vessels. They're overloading their weapons trying to hit us. The tactical advantage was so overwhelming it was almost unfair. Human ships could appear anywhere instantly, strike with weapons that bypassed all defenses, and vanish before retaliation was possible. The aliens were fighting an enemy that existed partially outside their understanding of physics. Captain Park Minji brought the Defiance, alongside another alien vessel, her quantum torpedoes ready to disable its engines, but something in the communications intercepts made her pause. Admiral, she reported, I'm hearing distress calls from their disabled ships. They have wounded crew members who need medical attention. Song considered this information carefully. Humanity's technological superiority was absolute, but they weren't monsters. Continue disabling their vessels, but prepare medical assistance for any crews that request it. The compassionate response confused the alien crews even further. Council doctrine taught that primitive species were savage and unpredictable, yet these humans were offering medical aid to enemies who had come to conquer them. Aboard the crippled, dominant Claw, Fleet Commander Kexthul struggled to process what was happening. His tactical officer approached cautiously. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're offering medical assistance. Kexthul's scales darkened with confusion. Explain. They say they can provide medical care for our injured crew members. No conditions, no demands for surrender. Just humanitarian aid. This violated everything Kexthul understood about warfare. Victorious forces didn't offer aid to defeated enemies. They demanded surrender, seized resources, and imposed their will through force. The concept of voluntary assistance was completely foreign to his experience. The remaining 5 alien vessels were systematically disabled over the next hour. Each ship was targeted with precise quantum torpedoes that destroyed propulsion while leaving life support and crew quarters intact. Not a single alien life was lost, despite their fleet's complete defeat. When the last alien vessel fell silent, Admiral Song opened a fleet-wide communication channel. "This is Admiral Song of the Earth Stellar Defense Corps. Your fleet has been defeated. Your weapons cannot harm us, your sensors cannot track us, and your technology is no match for ours. However, we take no pleasure in your defeat." Fleet Commander Kexthul listened to the transmission with growing bewilderment. "We will provide medical assistance to your injured crew members and basic supplies to maintain life support. In return, we ask only that you listen to what we have to say." "What kind of demand is that?" Kexthul muttered to his bridge crew. Victorious forces demanded territory, resources, technology, or submission. They didn't ask to be heard. Admiral Song's voice continued. "Your Galactic Coordination Council sent you here believing they faced a primitive species? You've learned otherwise. We didn't develop faster-than-light technology to conquer other worlds. We developed it to reach the stars and explore the universe." Dr. Choi Heron, monitoring the communication from Earth, provided real-time analysis of alien responses. "Their ships are silent, Admiral. We're not detecting any hostile actions or attempts to call for reinforcements." "We know you've been watching us," Song continued. "We know your council controls galactic civilization through technological superiority. That age is ending. Humanity has developed methods that make your technology obsolete." Captain Ji-Wan brought her ship alongside the alien flagship. Through the viewports, she could see alien crew members staring at the human vessel in amazement. The New Horizon was sleek and elegant, where their ships were brutal and imposing. "But we're not interested in replacing your council with human dominance," Song said. "We believe in something different. We believe in cooperation between equals." This statement caused visible confusion among the alien crews. Dr. Sunho, monitoring their internal communications, reported increasing chatter about the humans' unexpected behavior. "They don't understand the concept of voluntary cooperation," he noted. "Their entire civilization is based on hierarchical control." Fleet Commander Kexthul finally found his voice. "Human Admiral, your words make no sense. Superior technology grants the right to rule. This is natural law." "No, Commander," Song replied patiently. "Superior technology grants the opportunity to help others. There's a difference." As if to demonstrate this point, medical shuttles launched from the 3 human ships. Each small craft was equipped with universal medical scanners and treatment devices based on quantum manipulation technology. They approached the disabled alien vessels slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. The alien crews watched in fascination as human medical teams treated their wounded using techniques that seemed impossible. Burns were healed by manipulating cellular structure at the quantum level. Broken bones were repaired by adjusting atomic bonds. Radiation damage was reversed by correcting DNA sequences 1 molecule at a time. "How are they doing this?" asked the draconian medical officer aboard the dominant Claw. "I don't know," admitted the ship's science officer. "They're manipulating matter at the subatomic level with handheld devices. Our most advanced medical technology can't achieve these results." While the medical assistance continued, Admiral Song established secure communication with Earth's leadership. President Kim and the United Nations Security Council watched the proceedings with amazement. "The tactical demonstration was perfect," reported Admiral Song. "They understand we could have destroyed their entire fleet without losses. Now they're experiencing humanitarian assistance from the same opponents who just defeated them utterly. "What's their psychological state?" asked Dr. Park, the UN's chief xenopsychologist. "Confused and increasingly receptive. Their entire worldview is based on technological dominance determining social hierarchy. We've proven our technological superiority, then used it to help rather than harm them." Dr. Kim Tae-won, monitoring the situation from Seoul, made an important observation. "This could be our chance to demonstrate that there's an alternative to their system. They've probably never encountered a civilization that chose cooperation over domination." Over the following days, the situation in the outer solar system became increasingly surreal from the alien perspective. The human fleet maintained a protective perimeter around the disabled council vessels while providing continuous assistance. Food synthesizers produced meals compatible with alien biology. Environmental systems maintained optimal atmospheric conditions for multiple species. Most importantly, human technical teams began sharing non-military applications of their quantum manipulation technology. Simple devices that could purify water, generate clean energy, or synthesize materials from raw elements were offered freely to the alien crews. "Why are you doing this?" Fleet Commander Kex Thule asked during one of his daily conversations with Admiral Song. "Because it's the right thing to do," Song replied simply. "Your people are stranded far from home. They need help. We can provide that help, so we do. But you gain nothing from assisting us. We gain the knowledge that suffering has been reduced. We gain the possibility of friendship where there was once hostility. We gain the chance to show you that there's a better way to organize galactic civilization." The concept was so foreign to Kexthul's experience that he struggled to process it. In his universe, all actions were calculated for advantage. Strength was used to dominate. Weakness was exploited. The idea of helping others without expectation of gain was incomprehensible, yet he was experiencing it firsthand. Dr. Lee Jae-hyun, now serving as humanity's chief technology officer, began demonstrating the principles behind human quantum manipulation during educational sessions with interested alien crew members. The presentations were voluntary, but attendance was nearly universal. "The key insight," Jae-hyun explained to a mixed group of alien engineers and scientists, "is that reality is far more malleable than most species realize. Instead of fighting against physical laws, we learn to work with the underlying quantum structure of space-time itself." The emergency session of the Galactic Coordination Council convened in unprecedented chaos. For the first time in recorded history, representatives from all 12 member species gathered not to plan expansion or resolve trade disputes, but to address an existential threat to their authority. Prime Executor Thelmosis stood at the center of the great chamber, his crystalline form flickering with agitated energy patterns. Around him, the holographic displays showed impossible data. 12 Council warships disabled by 3 primitive vessels, their crews alive but helpless, receiving aid from the same opponents who had defeated them. "This cannot be accurate," declared Representative Korth of the Mechanical Confederation, his electronic voice distorting with what might have been disbelief. "No species achieves such technological advancement without centuries of Council guidance." Admiral Keshatar of the Draconian Imperium paced restlessly around the chamber's perimeter. "I've reviewed Fleet Commander Kexthul's combat recordings personally. The human vessels possess capabilities that violate our understanding of physics. They can vanish from sensors, appear anywhere instantly, and deploy weapons that bypass all known defensive systems. The Quillian collective representative pulsed with nervous energy. Perhaps more concerning is their behavior after victory. Standard conquest doctrine calls for resource extraction and population control. These humans are providing medical assistance and technological demonstrations to their defeated enemies. Psychological warfare, suggested the hive queen of the sectoid swarm, her mental voice reaching all present. They seek to confuse our crews and undermine military discipline. But Thelmosis had studied the reports too carefully to accept such simple explanations. No, their actions are consistent with genuine humanitarian concern. They've made no demands for surrender, claimed no territory, and requested no tribute. They appear to be helping our people simply because they can. The chamber fell silent as representatives struggled to process this information. In millions of years of galactic governance, the Council had never encountered a species that used superior power for purely altruistic purposes. "What are their demands?" asked the Nathaki representative, her crystalline form resonating with confused harmonics. "That's what troubles me most," Thelmosis replied. "They have no demands. They've simply asked that we listen to what they have to say." On Earth, Dr. Yoon Seokmin was experiencing the most productive period of his career. The alien fleet's presence in the outer solar system had provided unprecedented opportunities for scientific exchange. His translation algorithms had achieved complete compatibility with alien languages, and the discoveries were staggering. The Galactic Coordination Council has ruled known space for over 4 million years, he reported to the assembled Earth. Leadership. They maintain order through technological control, ensuring that no species develops advanced capabilities without their oversight. President Kim leaned forward in his chair. "How many civilizations are we talking about?" "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The council members are the 12 most advanced species, but they govern hundreds of others at various technological levels." "And they've prevented all of them from developing FTL technology?" Dr. Taewon, joining the briefing via video link from the Seoul facility, nodded grimly. "It's worse than that. They've deliberately stunted technological development across the EI galaxy. Any species that shows promise is guided into approved research directions that maintain the Council's advantage. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just achieved a breakthrough, they'd broken a system of technological oppression that had lasted longer than Earth's entire geological history. Admiral Song's voice came through the communication channel from the outer system. "We're receiving increasing interest from the alien crews about our social and political systems. They can't understand how we achieved such rapid advancement without central authority controlling research directions." "What are you telling them?" asked President Kim. "The truth. That we encourage innovation, reward creative thinking, and allow multiple approaches to difficult problems. Competition between research teams actually accelerated our progress rather than hindering it. In the alien fleet, this truth was causing profound philosophical disruptions. Fleet Commander Kex Thul found himself questioning assumptions he'd held for centuries. "Human Admiral," he said during one of their daily conversations, "your claims about technological development contradict established principles. Uncontrolled research leads to dangerous weapons and unstable societies." "Does it?" Admiral Song replied. "What evidence do you have for that belief?" 4 million years of galactic history. The Council maintains peace by preventing arms races between species. Or perhaps the Council maintains peace by preventing species from becoming strong enough to challenge their authority. Have you considered that possibility? The question hung in space between them like a quantum torpedo waiting to detonate. Quetzalcoatl had never considered that the Council's guidance might be motivated by self-interest rather than genuine concern for galactic welfare. Dr. Kang Sunho, conducting technical demonstrations for interested alien crew members, was discovering how deeply technological stagnation had affected galactic civilization. "Your quantum field manipulators are impressive," admitted a Nethaki engineer. "But how do you prevent them from being weaponized?" "We don't prevent it," Sunho replied, causing visible shock among his audience. "We study the potential military applications thoroughly, then develop appropriate safeguards and ethical guidelines. But surely some individuals will ignore those." "Guidelines?" "Some do. That's why we have multiple independent research groups working on the same problems. If someone develops a new weapon, others quickly develop countermeasures. Competition drives innovation in defense as well as offense. The concept of technological balance through competitive development was completely foreign to aliens raised under Council oversight. They'd been taught that only centralized control could prevent technological disasters. Meanwhile, Captain Park Minji was making an even more disturbing discovery during her exploration of the outer solar system. Human quantum sensors had detected something the aliens apparently didn't know existed: hidden monitoring stations throughout the galaxy, all broadcasting back to Council space. "Admiral," she reported during a secure communication, "I found 17 monitoring posts within 100 light-years of Earth. Each one is equipped with advanced sensors and FTL communication arrays. Are they all Council installations?" "That's the interesting part. About half appear to be Council stations, but the others belong to different organizations. It looks like multiple groups have been watching various star systems for signs of technological development." Dr. Yoon Seokmin analyzed the data with growing excitement. "This suggests the Council's control isn't as absolute as they claim. There are other factions in the galaxy, possibly opposition groups." The discovery led to one of humanity's boldest decisions yet. Using their superior FTL capabilities, they began making contact with these mysterious watchers. The first contact came at a monitoring station operated by the Zephyrian Republic, a species humanity had never heard of. Captain Han Ji-won materialized the New Horizon directly beside their hidden outpost, causing panic among the three-member crew. "Please don't be alarmed," Ji-won broadcast in Galactic Standard. "We're representatives of the human species from Earth. We'd like to talk." The response came after several minutes of frantic internal discussion among the Zephyrian crew. "Human vessel, how did you detect our station? Our stealth systems are rated against Council sensors. Our technology operates on different principles," Ji-won replied diplomatically. "We're not affiliated with the Council. In fact, we're hoping to learn more about galactic politics from neutral observers." The conversation that followed revealed the existence of a hidden galaxy-wide resistance movement. The Zephyrian Republic was one of dozens of species that secretly opposed Council dominance while publicly maintaining compliance with their technological restrictions. "We've been waiting for someone powerful enough to challenge the Council openly," explained Commander Velnash of the Zephyrian Monitoring Station. "But every species that shows promise is either co-opted or destroyed before they can threaten the established order." "What makes you think we're different?" Ji-won asked. "You defeated a Council fleet without losses, then offered medical aid to your defeated enemies. No Council species would show such restraint. More importantly, you're sharing your technology freely instead of hoarding it for military advantage." Over the following weeks, humanity made contact with 17 different resistance groups scattered across the galaxy. Each had been secretly monitoring various star systems, hoping to find allies in their struggle against Council oppression. The rebels' stories were remarkably similar. Species that showed too much innovation were subjected to guidance treaties that limited their research to approved fields. Those who refused were isolated through economic sanctions or, in extreme cases, military intervention. The Council's greatest fear, explained Dr. Yethron of the Altarian Liberation Front, is that someone will develop technology they can't control or understand. Your quantum manipulation capabilities represent exactly that threat. Back in Council Spa, Captain Park Minji stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Horizon's Edge, watching a sight that would have been impossible just months before. Through the view screen, she could see dozens of alien vessels from 17 different species, all equipped with human-designed FTL drives and gathering for humanity's first Galactic Liberation Conference. The ships were a fascinating mixture of architectural styles. Sleek Zephyrian vessels floated alongside the crystalline constructs of the Altarian Liberation Front. Angular Corvin destroyers maintained formation with the organic-looking bioships of the Verdani Collective. Each species had adapted human quantum technology to their own engineering principles, creating a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Kang Sun-ho from his position at the science station. In just 3 months, he'd helped 37 different species understand the principles of quantum manipulation. The speed of technological transfer had exceeded even the most optimistic projections. "Admiral Song to all vessels," came the familiar voice over the communication channel. "Welcome to Kepler Station. For many of you, this represents the first time your species has traveled beyond your home systems without Council permission. Kepler." Station itself was a marvel of human-alien cooperation. Built in neutral space between several star systems, it served as humanity's first attempt at creating a truly egalitarian meeting place. The station's modular design allowed for environmental zones suited to dozens of different biological requirements. Dr. Lee Jae-hyun, now serving as the station's chief technical officer, monitored the arrival of each vessel with professional pride. Every ship represented proof that rapid technological advancement was possible when artificial restrictions were removed. "The Thermal Guild delegation has arrived," he reported. "That makes 43 species now participating in the conference." Captain Minji nodded with satisfaction. The Thermal Guild had been one of the most hesitant to join the liberation movement, fearing Council retaliation. Their arrival suggested that fear of the old order was finally giving way to hope for something better. Back in Council space, the situation had deteriorated into open crisis. War Marshal Kethvar of the Hegemony Enforcement Division paced restlessly around the Emergency Command Center, his battle armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "The reserve fleet is fully mobilized," he reported to the assembled Council representatives. 144 vessels, equipped with our most advanced weapons and defensive systems." Prime Executor Thelmosis studied the tactical displays with growing unease. The reserve fleet represented the Council's ultimate military force, ships held in secret for exactly this kind of crisis. Each vessel incorporated technology refined over millions of years, making them theoretically superior to anything in known space. Theoretically. "Intelligence reports on human capabilities?" Thelmosis asked. Admiral Keshatar activated a holographic display showing data compiled from the disabled fleet's sensor records. "Their quantum manipulation technology remains beyond our understanding. Our scientists have analyzed Fleet Commander Kexthal's combat recordings for months without success." "What about countermeasures?" "None identified. Our best theoretical physicists believe their method of space-time manipulation operates through dimensional phases we cannot access with current technology." Representative Korth's electronic voice carried undertones of frustration. How is it possible that a primitive species achieved such capabilities without any foundation in established physics? Because they didn't use established physics, replied Dr. Velthos, the Council's chief scientist. They appear to have developed an entirely new understanding of quantum mechanics. While we perfected existing theories, they discovered fundamentally different approaches. The admission hung in the air like an indictment of the Council's entire technological philosophy. For millions of years, they'd assumed their methods represented the pinnacle of scientific achievement. The possibility that better approaches existed had never been seriously considered. Deployment recommendations? Thelmosis asked. War Marshal Kethvar straightened to his full imposing height. Total overwhelming force. Deploy the entire reserve fleet simultaneously. Even if human, technology is superior. They cannot possibly have built enough ships to match our numbers. It was exactly the kind of thinking that had led to the previous fleet's defeat. At Kepler Station, the Galactic Liberation Conference was proceeding better than anyone had dared hope. Representatives from 43 species were sharing information, coordinating research efforts, and planning for a post-Council galaxy. Dr. Choi Hyerin served as humanity's chief diplomatic coordinator, facilitating discussions between species that had never been allowed to communicate directly under Council rule. The technological sharing has exceeded all projections, she reported during the daily briefing. 17 species have achieved basic FTL capability. 26 others have mastered quantum manipulation for industrial applications. Admiral Song nodded with satisfaction. What about military preparations? That's where things get interesting. Captain Han Ji-won interjected from her position coordinating fleet operations. Each species has adapted our technology to their own tactical doctrines. The Corvin focus on stealth applications. The Verdani have developed biological enhancements. The Zephyrians excel at electronic warfare. In other words, Dr. Taewon observed, from his research station, we've created a technological explosion unlike anything in galactic history. Each species is innovating in directions we never considered. The diversity of approaches was proving to be humanity's greatest strategic advantage. While the Council had spent millions of years perfecting a single technological path, the Liberation Alliance was exploring dozens of different directions simultaneously. Commander Vel Nash of the Zephyrian Republic demonstrated this principle during a technical briefing to Allied forces. By combining human quantum manipulation with our own gravimetric sciences, we've developed what we call phase missiles, he explained to the assembled military commanders. They can travel through normal space, then phase into quantum dimensions to bypass enemy defenses. Captain Minji studied the technical specifications with amazement. You've made our quantum torpedoes obsolete in just 3 months. Not obsolete, Velnash corrected. Enhanced. Your original design provided the foundation. We simply adapted it to our understanding of gravitational physics. Similar innovations were occurring throughout the Alliance. The Altarian Liberation Front had developed quantum-enhanced shields. The Thermal Guild created temperature-based applications that could freeze enemy ships in space. The Verdani Collective bioengineered living components that could repair damage automatically. Each breakthrough was immediately shared with all Alliance members, creating an accelerating cycle of innovation that the Council's centralized research structure couldn't match. This is what we should have been doing all along, observed Dr. Yethval of the Corvin Scientific Collective. Competition and cooperation combined produce results far superior to either approach alone. The philosophical implications were as important as the technological ones. For the first time in galactic history, species were working together as equals rather than in hierarchical relationships determined by technological superiority. But the idyllic period of research and cooperation was about to end. Deep space sensors detected the approach of the Council's reserve fleet, and the magnitude of the force was sobering. 144 capital ships, reported the station's tactical officer. Estimated arrival in 6 days. Admiral, Song called an immediate strategic meeting with all Alliance military commanders. The holographic display showed the approaching fleet in all its overwhelming power. "They're not taking any chances this time," he observed. "This represents the largest military force deployed in recorded galactic history." War Commander Thekrill of the Draconian Liberation Movement studied the tactical data with professional respect. "Each ship is approximately 10 times larger than the vessels in the previous fleet. They're bringing everything they have." "Numbers," Captain Jiwan said quietly. "They still think superior numbers guarantee victory, don't they?" asked Commander Velnash. The Zephyrian had limited combat experience against forces of this magnitude. Dr. Kang Sun-ho activated a secondary display showing Alliance fleet composition. "We have 67 vessels from 28 different species. Each one incorporates quantum technology, but we're still outnumbered more than 2 to 1. "The math doesn't look favorable," admitted Captain Minji, but Admiral Song was studying a different set of calculations. "What if we're thinking about this wrong? The Council is bringing conventional forces to fight an unconventional enemy. They're prepared for a traditional space battle." "What are you suggesting?" asked War Commander. "Thekrill, I'm suggesting we don't give them a traditional space battle. Every one of our ships can phase shift, appear anywhere instantly, and coordinate actions across vast distances simultaneously. Why fight their kind of battle when we can fight our own?" The strategy that emerged from the planning session was unlike anything in military history. Instead of massing their forces for a conventional engagement, the Alliance would scatter across multiple star systems. Using humanity's superior FTL-CA, the ancient Nexus Station had stood at the heart of galactic civilization for over 4 million years. Built by the combined efforts of the 12 founding Council species, it was considered the most secure location in known space. Its massive, defensive arrays and impenetrable shields had never been breached by hostile forces. Until today. Commander Han Ji-won materialized the new horizon directly inside the station's central command chamber, her ship's quantum phase-shifting technology, bypassing every defense as if they didn't exist. Around her, similar vessels from 17 different Alliance species appeared throughout the massive structure. Prime Executor Thelmosis stood frozen at his command console, his crystalline form flickering with patterns of shock and disbelief. The impossible had happened. Enemy forces had penetrated the very heart of Council power, using technology that made their most advanced defenses completely useless. "This is Commander Han Ji-won of the Earth Stellar Defense Corps," she announced calmly. "By authority of the Galactic Liberation Alliance, I hereby demand the immediate cessation of all military operations against civilian populations." The command center buzzed with frantic activity as Council staff tried to comprehend what was happening. Security forces rushed toward the intruding ships, only to find their weapons passed harmlessly through vessels that existed in quantum phase space. War Marshal Kethvar burst into the chamber, his battle armor scarred from recent combat. His attempts to threaten civilian worlds had backfired catastrophically when Alliance forces systematically destroyed every Council ship that approached populated systems. Half the reserve fleet lay disabled across a dozen star systems. "Surrender!" he snarled at Commander Ji-won. You may have superior technology, but you're still outnumbered. Are we? Jiwan asked mildly. More Alliance ships materialized throughout the station. Zephyrian vessels appeared in the engineering sections. Corvan stealth ships emerged from hiding in the maintenance areas. Verdani bioships grew from what had appeared to be structural components. The station was completely compromised. Admiral, Song's voice echoed through the command center as he broadcast from the New Horizons bridge. Prime Executor Thelmosis, the Galactic Coordination Council's 4-million-year reign is over. Your military forces are defeated, your infrastructure is disabled, and your authority is no longer recognized by the majority of galactic civilizations. The truth of that statement was becoming obvious on the tactical displays. Across Council, space member worlds were declaring independence faster than the central government could track. The demonstration of Alliance military superiority had shattered the myth of Council invincibility. You cannot govern the galaxy through force alone, Thelmosis said, his voice carrying tones of desperate dignity. Order requires authority. Someone must maintain stability. Someone will, Admiral Song replied, but not through domination and technological suppression, not through the threat of force against those who dare to innovate. Dr. Choi Hyerin, now serving as the Alliance's chief diplomatic coordinator, stepped forward with a datapad containing the document that would reshape galactic civilization. The Galactic Sciences Cooperative Charter, she announced, a framework for voluntary cooperation between equals, dedicated to the free exchange of knowledge and the peaceful exploration of the universe. The Charter represented everything the Council had opposed. Open technological sharing, voluntary membership, democratic decision-making, and the absolute prohibition of using superior technology to dominate other species. Impossible, Representative Korth declared, his electronic voice crackling with disbelief. Unrestricted technological development will lead to chaos, wars, extinction events. Has it? Dr. Kang Soonho asked from his position coordinating Alliance technical operations. In the past 6 months, we've shared quantum manipulation technology with 43 species. How many wars has this caused? The question hung in the air unanswered because the answer was embarrassing. 0 wars, 0 conflicts. Instead, species that had been enemies under Council rule were collaborating on joint research projects. The Thermal Guild and the Ice Runners have been working together on temperature regulation technology, Soonho continued. The Corvan and Verdani have developed hybrid biomechanical systems. Former enemies are becoming research partners because they're no longer competing for limited Council approval. Captain Park Minji, monitoring the situation from her position aboard the Horizon's edge, added her observations. We've also seen dramatic increases in innovation rates. When people are free to explore whatever interests them, they make discoveries that centralized planning would never consider. The evidence was overwhelming. In just 6 months of freedom, Alliance species had made more technological progress than most had achieved in centuries under Council guidance. Prime Executor Thelmosis studied the Charter with the growing realization that his entire world view was crumbling. What happens to Council species who don't wish to join your cooperative? Nothing, Admiral Song replied simply. Membership is voluntary. Those who prefer the old system are free to maintain it among themselves. We won't force anyone to accept freedom. But neither will we allow anyone to impose restrictions on others, Commander Jiwan added firmly. The age of technological tyranny is over. War Marshal Keth Var made one final attempt to salvage Council authority. You speak of cooperation, but you've conquered us through superior force. How is that different from what we've done? Dr. Lee, Jae-hyun, who had been quietly monitoring council communications, activated a holographic display showing recent battle statistics. In 6 months of conflict, Alliance forces have disabled 417 council vessels, he reported. Total casualties, 0 deaths, 43 minor injuries. Your own records show that the council has killed more sentient beings in routine police actions than we have in an entire war. The moral contrast was stark and undeniable. The Alliance had fought with precision and restraint that made council military doctrine look barbaric by comparison. Furthermore, Jae-hyun continued, we're not conquering anyone. We're simply removing your ability to prevent others from making their own choices. As if to prove this point, Captain Minji's voice came through the communication channel. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 council member worlds. They're asking to join the Galactic Sciences Cooperative immediately. Not surrender, Admiral Song corrected. Applications for membership. And yes, approve them. All. Anyone who wants to participate in cooperative research is welcome. The process of galactic transformation accelerated rapidly once the Council's central authority collapsed. Species that had been held back for millennia suddenly found themselves free to pursue their interests and develop their capabilities. Dr. Kim Tae-won, now directing the Cooperative's Research Coordination Center, watched in amazement as scientific breakthroughs occurred across the galaxy on a daily basis. The innovation rate is exponential, he reported during a status briefing. Quantum manipulation applications we never imagined are being developed by species with completely different approaches to physics. The diversity of perspectives was producing results that no single species could have achieved alone. Crystalline beings approached quantum mechanics through harmonic resonance. Energy creatures understood field manipulation in ways organic species never could. Mechanical intelligences calculated possibilities that biological minds couldn't process. This is what the galaxy should have been all along, observed Dr. Yoon Seokmin, who had become the cooperative's chief communications coordinator. Thousands of different approaches to understanding the universe, all working together instead of being suppressed. 6 months after the fall of the Council, the first Galactic Innovation Conference convened at New Kepler Station. Representatives from over 200 species gathered to share discoveries and plan collaborative projects. The conference opened with a speech by Dr. Choi Hyerin, who had been elected as the cooperative's first Director General. We stand at the beginning of a new age, she announced to the assembled delegates. An age where knowledge belongs to everyone, where innovation is encouraged rather than controlled, and where cooperation replaces domination. The response was overwhelming. Species that had spent millennia in technological stagnation were finally free to explore their potential. Projects were proposed that would have been impossible under Council rule. Joint exploration of distant galaxies, collaborative research into the fundamental nature of reality, and peaceful contact with civilizations beyond known space. Commander Ji-won, now serving as head of the Cooperative's Exploration Division, presented the most ambitious proposal of all. We've learned to manipulate space-time within our own galaxy, she said. The next challenge is reaching beyond galactic boundaries. There are other galaxies out there, potentially containing civilizations we've never imagined. The proposal excited delegates from across the galaxy. For the first time in their history, they could contemplate exploration purely for the sake of knowledge rather than conquest or resource extraction. Prime Executor Thelmosis, now serving as a technical advisor rather than a ruler, found himself adapting to the new reality with surprising ease. Freed from the burden of maintaining authoritarian control, he was discovering the joy of